This is an artificially aware original production.
Artificially aware, so we're sorry, Orderback 201
Imagine for a moment that your thoughts are like a massive wave building in the open ocean, gathering strength until it's unstoppable, destined to crash down on the shores of your mind with a force you're powerless to resist. That's the brutal reality Jennie Allen confronts in Get Out of Your Head. This isn't some casual pop psychology pitch or a sanitized self-help book written to comfort you on a cozy night. No, this is Allen showing up with a starkly personal message that toxic thoughts are an insidious storm, but one that can be conquered if you're ready to embrace the right tools and faith-based insights. The book opens with Allen staring down her own doubts and spiraling thoughts. She doesn't preach from a pulpit of perfection. She admits to being pulled down into the same traps we all fall into: doubts about self-worth, an existential ache, a hunger for answers that the world just won't give. And while the answers are powerful, they don't come easy, and they demand change. So take a breath. We're about to step into a battle of the mind that could be as fierce as any physical one, and Jennie Allen's purpose is to arm you with the tools you need to win it. And that battle began for Allen in a moment so strange and charged that you can feel its tremors right through the page. There she was, back in her old hometown of Little Rock, Arkansas, about to give a talk on a topic no one likes to touch with a 10-foot pole: demons. She was on stage, speaking about the darkness we often can't see but sometimes feel, when she caught the gaze of a stranger. He was angry, unknown, and after the talk, he approached her with a threat that was as surreal as it was spine-chilling. "We are coming for you." No sooner did he say this than the power in the building shut down, as if some sinister force wanted to silence her message. That night became the start of an 18-month spiral. Every day, every night, especially at that haunting 3 a.m. hour, she'd wake with her mind in free fall, questioning God, her life's work, the very foundation of her beliefs. It's a gut-wrenching moment of vulnerability, a reality check that no one, no matter how grounded or accomplished, is immune to the shadowy grip of self-doubt. Jennie didn't just talk about fighting negativity. She felt it, lived it, fought it back from the edge. This story sets the stage for everything she shares next, giving us proof that she isn't just selling a platitude. She's holding a lifeline she herself once had to cling to. The answer, according to Allen, comes down to a single word that feels both terrifyingly simple and deceptively powerful: choice. In the depths of her struggle, she came to a critical realization. Every thought that threatened to pull her under could be either accepted or replaced. Every spiral was a choice. Let that sink in. Each twist of despair, each darkly seductive thought whispering to you about your failures or your inadequacies, doesn't own you unless you let it. Allen realized that in moments of total surrender to her faith, in letting go of her mental fortress and giving her mind over to Jesus, she could finally take control of her own thoughts. You might think it's impractical, this idea that faith alone can reset a lifetime of negative thinking, but Allen insists it's the opposite. This isn't about ignoring the storm. It's about recognizing that you have a rudder, and it's called surrender. It's a choice, a profound and active decision to step out of the spiral and take a stand on a solid ground you can trust. Allen's revelation becomes a powerful declaration. The antidote to the spiral is not just choice, but faith. A faith deeply rooted in surrendering every dark thought to the grace of God. When she speaks of submitting to God, she's not talking about a passive belief or a moment of casual prayer. No, this is radical submission. It's like dropping every fear, every nagging thought, and every question into the hands of a greater power that won't judge them, but instead transform them. Allen's faith became her escape hatch, a shield against the lure of negativity that lurks at every corner. She points to Scripture, where Paul speaks of taking every thought captive in obedience to Christ. This isn't just a spiritual exercise, it's a mental discipline, a constant act of awareness and surrender, a process of catching those rogue thoughts before they have the chance to bloom into despair. Allen makes it clear, you're not weak for feeling overwhelmed. You're not faithless for questioning. But you have a choice to fight back, and the first weapon is the courage to trust something bigger than yourself. And where do you begin this process? Silent, the kind that makes your thoughts painfully loud until you finally start listening. Allen stresses the power of being alone with your own mind. No distractions, no phone, no endless loop of Netflix to drown out that steady, nagging drumbeat of self-doubt. In today's world, we drown in constant stimulation. We're addicted to the noise because silence can be terrifying. It means facing the thoughts you've been avoiding. But in Allen's view, that's precisely why we need it. She describes silence as the place where we make room for God to speak to us, to reach down into the chaotic noise and show us what really matters. And science backs her up on this. Prayer and meditation have been shown to physically alter your brain's structure, rewiring the pathways of thought so that over time, negativity loses its grip. Allen invites us to embrace that stillness, to lean into the discomfort of listening to our own minds, trusting that beyond the noise, there is clarity, and within that clarity, there is peace. Confronting the whirlwind of thoughts circling in our minds requires more than silence. It demands courage, the kind that Allen sees as transformative. Courage to listen, not to recoil or shy away from the dark thoughts waiting in the wings, but to stare them down with conviction. Allen doesn't recommend you simply dismiss or ignore negative thoughts. Instead, she advises an approach that almost sounds paradoxical. Face them fully, but with the determination to extract a different meaning. She teaches that each of these thoughts is a pivot point, a chance to choose a faith-based response rather than sliding into old habits of fear or doubt. It's like meeting a stranger in the shadows of your mind, and rather than allowing yourself to be led into the unknown, instead taking control and redirecting the narrative. Allen's approach is an exercise in radical accountability. Every time you feel yourself slipping, question the thought, pull it apart, analyze it, and let your faith guide the response. It's an invitation to make each negative thought a doorway to something positive, a chance to put your trust back into the hands of God, rather than letting it run wild in your own head. Of course, if silence and courage are the bedrock of Allen's path to freedom from negativity, community is the structure built upon it. We are social creatures, Allen insists, and even faith itself is meant to be lived in the presence of others. Community is where the messy business of facing life's struggles and sharing vulnerabilities becomes possible. Allen points to the very foundation of her beliefs, the concept of the Holy Trinity, as a model of community itself, where love and unity are woven into the divine fabric. We are, she argues, meant to be woven into a similar tapestry, connecting with others and finding strength in those connections. In a world that celebrates fierce independence and self-sufficiency, Allen's reminder feels like a refreshing challenge, to recognize the limitations of self-reliance, and instead find power in shared faith and mutual support. When she describes community, She speaks not just of social gatherings or casual friendships, but a deeper sense of unity that lifts each person up, especially when they feel like crumbling. It's a counterbalance to the quiet of solitude, where we don't just listen for God's voice, but hear it echoed in the voices of those who care for us. But to truly unlock the strength of community, Allen argues, you have to dare to be seen, to strip back the layers of self-protection and reveal the parts of you that usually stay hidden. Vulnerability within a community isn't just helpful, it's essential. She shares a vivid story of a friend who was on the brink of losing her marriage, caught in a web of unspoken fears and attractions. The friend confessed her struggles to Allen, and in that admission, something changed. What felt insurmountable suddenly became manageable. By saying the words out loud, by revealing the thing that she feared most, her friend found the strength to stay in her marriage. Vulnerability, Allen believes, is like a light that dispels the shadows, a way to take the sting out of secrets and give power back to the person willing to speak them. Transparency, in Allen's eyes, is more than just honesty. It's a revolutionary act that disrupts negativity and builds resilience. The enemy of our peace thrives in isolation, Allen suggests, but when we expose our fears within the safe circle of community, we find that we're far less alone than we thought. At the heart of Allen's method lies the act of surrender. If you want to break the loop of negative thoughts, she insists, you need to learn the art of taking your thoughts captive and giving them to God. She speaks of surrender not as a last resort or an act of resignation, but as an empowered choice, a way to unshackle yourself from the weight of endless worry. Imagine, she says, holding that fear or doubt in your hands, acknowledging its presence, then gently handing it over to something greater. Surrender in Allen's world is not a weakness. It's a warrior's way of battling mental demons, of refusing to let them set the terms. And it's not just about abandoning responsibility. It's about trusting that God can handle what we can't. To fully surrender is to step back from the need to control every outcome, to let go of the anxiety that gnaws at you. Allen's words make it clear, surrender isn't a passive act. It's a commitment to freedom, a pledge to trust that you are safe, even when you're not in control. And in that act of surrender, you open the door for peace to replace panic, for faith to replace fear. One of Allen's most unexpected pieces of advice is to cultivate a sense of awe, to actively seek out beauty, wonder, and the sublime as antidotes to cynicism and despair. This isn't just an exercise in mindfulness, it's a way of orienting yourself toward God's presence in the world. She recounts a moment from her college years when she plucked a single leaf from a tree and asked her friends to observe its intricate design. The leaf, in all its simple beauty, became a reminder of divine creativity and intention, a small glimpse into the handiwork of something greater. And here's the twist. Science backs up Allen's claims about the effects of awe. Studies show that experiencing awe and wonder shifts our focus from ourselves to the bigger picture, often resulting in feelings of generosity and connection. For Allen, awe is a direct pathway to gratitude, a way to break the self-centered downward spiral of thoughts and lift our gaze to something brighter, better. To seek awe is to make a conscious choice against cynicism, a choice to believe that beauty and goodness are woven into the fabric of existence, just waiting for us to notice them. Gratitude. It's an easy word to toss around, but in Allen's perspective, it's a sacred, transformative act that cuts through the noise of life's endless complications. Gratitude, paired with humility, can change everything about the way you handle challenges. Allen shares the story of a friend with a college degree who felt stuck in a dead-end job she found uninspiring. This friend, frustrated, saw herself as deserving something better. Yet it wasn't until she reframed her view through gratitude that she found peace in her circumstances. She turned her attention from what she lacked to what she could give. Suddenly, her work shifted from tedious to meaningful. She found joy in small interactions and satisfaction in serving others. Allen points out that when you view life with humility, you're free from the crushing weight of entitlement. Gratitude opens your eyes to hidden blessings. And science again backs Allen up. Grateful people experience fewer health issues and report higher levels of happiness. Gratitude doesn't change the world around you, but it changes the way you see it, filling even dark days with purpose and clarity. When Allen speaks of rejecting complacency, she's calling out to that part of each of us that finds comfort in routine, even if it means sacrificing growth. Complacency keeps us tethered to the comfort zone, where challenges are minimized and the chance to serve others is ignored. But Allen argues that it's not enough to simply live for ourselves. True purpose lies in serving others, and in doing so, honoring a higher purpose. Look at the life of Jesus, Allen reminds us, a life defined by humility, service, and an unrelenting commitment to uplifting others. Allen's words strip back our excuses for self-centeredness, and in a single stroke, make the path forward clear. Serving others, whether that's through direct action, emotional support, or small everyday kindnesses, doesn't just benefit the world around you, it grounds you. The act of serving rewires your brain to release dopamine, offering not just purpose, but genuine fulfillment. In the end, Allen insists, purpose isn't found by seeking glory or praise, it's built quietly, one small act of service at a time. Allen's discussion on rewiring the mind is one of her most intriguing insights. To her, the brain is not a rigid structure but a malleable landscape, one that can be reshaped and remade with faith as its core anchor. And here, modern science is on her side once again. The brain, it turns out, has neuroplasticity, a term that means it can rewire itself over time. Allen shares that by aligning our thoughts with Jesus and consciously choosing to follow God's principles, we can replace patterns of negativity with patterns of peace, hope, and resilience. This isn't a one-time switch. It's a steady, deliberate process that requires both mental discipline and spiritual surrender. Allen sees this rewiring as the ultimate form of liberation. When you give your mind over to Jesus, when you allow faith to become the compass that guides your thoughts, you aren't just making yourself a more positive person, you're forging a new pathway to lasting joy. Allen offers her story as proof. After 18 months of a mental spiral, the shift happened not through sheer will, but through the steady, daily work of aligning her mind with God's love. Daily choices, Allen says, are the secret to breaking free from mental turmoil. She makes it clear that a transformed mind is built not in leaps, but in the accumulation of small, faithful steps. Every morning, every moment offers a new chance to choose positivity over doubt, gratitude over frustration, service over self-centeredness. Allen shares simple, almost deceptively easy practices. Start the day with prayer, take time to listen, reach out to a friend. But don't be fooled, the power lies in consistency. Like a sculptor chipping away at a block of marble, each decision to follow a faith-based mindset gradually shapes a new way of thinking. This practice isn't easy, it's a lifetime's work. Yet Allen insists if you commit to it, the payoff is real. A mind trained to seek peace instead of chaos, and a heart aligned with something greater than fleeting desires. Each choice becomes a building block in the fortress of faith, And with enough of these small choices, you can build a life grounded in joy. Allen's journey, ultimately, is a challenge to all of us. We're each carrying the weight of our own spirals, whether they last 18 months or 18 minutes. But in the end, Allen believes every thought is an opportunity to turn away from darkness and look upward. Her book is not just a collection of ideas, it's a map she's drawn from her own experience. And her message is simple but radical. Change the direction of your thoughts, and you'll change the direction of your life. She asks readers not to settle for a life enslaved by self-doubt or driven by the relentless need for control. She calls on us to start a journey of surrender, where each step is a choice to let faith replace fear, hope replace despair. For Allen, and now for us, the answer lies not just in self-help, but in faith, in the courage to trust that every thought surrendered to God is one less thought holding you back. Thank you for coming along on this dive into Get Out of Your Head, and remember, each day, each thought is a new chance to make a better choice. Like, subscribe, and until next time, choose faith over fear.